Mr. Eliakim Nashiku, and he is a policy analyst at the Ministry of Labour, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, ma'am. Thank you.
As we say that the GIC Center sessions are conversations with you, our viewers, and we always welcome your comments and questions, especially through our social media platforms through which we live stream these shows. So you can find us on Facebook at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That is on our Facebook platform. You can also find us through our YouTube platform, and our handle there is MICT, pardon me, MICT Namibia. That's our handle on YouTube, MICT Namibia. Getting back to the topic of the afternoon, as we said, we are looking at trade unions and employer organizations registration process. Trade unions and employer organizations registration process. Our first question will go to Mr. Najihwa, and we want to know what is the difference between a trade union and an employer organization?
Thank you for the question. Trade union is an association of employees whose main purpose is to regulate the relationship between employees and their employers or their employees' trade union.
Okay.
Employer organization is a number of employers that came together for the purpose of regulating the relationship between the employers and the employees or the registered trade union of that employee.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for distinguishing those two for us. Mr. Nashiku, we then move on over to you, because at this point we would want to find out what are the requirements of for a trade union or an employer organization's registration. What do they require for them to be able to qualify to register, number one? And through that whole process, what are the various, if necessary, documentation that need to be furnished?
Okay, thank you for the question. As my colleague has indicated, once a group of employees organize themselves with a common purpose, they then form a trade union. And respectively, once a group of employers with a common goal came together, organized them together, they form an employer organization. Now, for this group to be regarded as such, they have now to adopt a constitution. That constitution now either being for a trade union or for the employers organization. Now what is requested is that now the founding members of either a trade union or employer organization adapt to the constitution as per the guideline. There is a guideline stipulated in the Labour Act. To be specific, section 53 of the Labour Act, they put a guideline. Now, once they adopt the constitution, they then have to submit the constitution to the Labour Commissioner for consideration. And those constitutions, they should be now 3 copies, and they should be accompanied by a prescribed form, what we call AC6. And then they submit it to the Labour Commissioner for consideration.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Mrs. Shuveni, what are the procedures that an application then goes through after it has been received by the Labour Commissioner?
The procedures that the application has to go through when it's received to the Office of the Labour Commissioner are as follows. It will receive a comprehensive analysis by the policy analyst. And in this whole process, the very first stage that of the analysis of the policy analyst is to see to it whether the application meets the requirements of the law. And what we mainly look at as an office through that process, we look at the name of the trade union, the industry whereby the industry where the focus of the trade union is on, and you also look at the membership. The membership is going to be contributed. Then we look at who are the office bearers, who are the officials of the trade union and their functions thereof. Then from there, we look at how funds of the union from the members are going to be utilized. Then we go on and say, in terms of the law, how is the winding up of that organization or a trade union in a case whereby it is not going to work well? All these are stipulated under the law, which specifically the labor law. And finally, we also look at an issue whether this constitution is not in conflict with law number 1 of the country, which is the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia.
Okay. Now, thank you very much, Ms. Shuveni. Mr. Najewa, we would like to find out from you, when would a trade union or an employer organization be registered?
Thank you for another question. So if the constitution of the registered, or if not registered to say, if the constitution of a trade union or organization that is an applicant now meets the requirements that are stated under section 53, subsection 3 and subsection 2 and 3 of the Labor Act, then the Labor Commissioner might register that trade union or organization that made such application by issuing a certificate of registration.
Okay, okay. At this point, we would like to remind our viewers that this is a conversation, and a lot of times we are labored, or our minds are labored with questions with regards to these type of topics that we want to find out how they work and what our options are. And this is where I invite you as our viewer to please send us your comments, send us your questions, so that we also can pose them to our panelists in the studio. Also remember that you can find us on Facebook to do so. You can drop us your comments and your questions through our comments section, and that is on our Facebook platform. We have our page there where we are live streaming through, and that is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That is our page on Facebook. On YouTube, you can find us at MICT Namibia. MICT Namibia. We continue with our session while we wait for you to join the conversation. Mr. Nashiku, what are the procedures for changing the constitution of a registered trade union or an employer's organization?
Okay, thank you for the question. The procedure for changing the constitution of either a trade union or an employer organization form part of the initial constitution of the trade union. So basically it means on the initial constitution of the trade union should indicate as when they want to change their constitution, what they are going to do in their constitution. Basically now when there is a meeting and they intend to change their constitution, they only apply to the Labor Commissioner for approval of the indicated change. By doing so now they should certify the Labor Commissioner that indeed there was a resolution that stated that the constitution should be changed, and on that they should submit 2 copies of the resolution now indicating the change in wording, what have been changed on the constitution. And apart from that, it should also be accompanied by a certificate duly certified by its chairperson that indeed there was a resolution which indicated or proposing those changes. And then it have to go the process under review so that we confirm that.
Okay. Mr. Nashiko, I stay with you. Through your experience with the ministry, with the ministry, I would want to know what are the common reasons that you have come across for requests for changes to constitutions. What are the most common ones that you're familiar with?
Okay, basically some of the trade unions, they only applying to change names, and some they can go further that they want to change the industry or the scope. But basically for today, we only focus on the process, and I don't want to be on a specific issue.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fine then. Mrs. Shuveni, what procedures are involved after the application for changing the constitution of a trade union or employers organization has been received by the Office of the Labour Commissioner?
This is actually the same procedure. It is an application like any other application. But at this point in time, we are not reviewing the whole application as is. We only look at the amendments. And in fact, what we look at is just the compliance with the Labour Act. Once the changes are complying with the sections of the Labour Act, and it does not go beyond the constitution of the country, it's in line. These are the things that we have to look at. And after that, it went through again the same procedure whereby it will reach now the office of the head, which is the commissioner, who will go and do also the final version on the constitution and issue a certificate, as it has been said by my colleague earlier.
Okay, okay. Mr. Najihwa, we come to you then with our next question, because at this point we would want to know what are the possible outcomes once the review or the analysis of the application for registration and changing of the constitution of the trade union or employer organization has been finalized?
Thank you for the question. The Labour Commissioner might require further information in supporting of the application. So after now the Labour Commissioner consider the application for either registration of trade union or the application for the amending the constitution of trade union or employer organization, then the Labour Commissioner might issue a certificate to approve the change made, or if it's the changing the name of the trade union or employer organization, then the Labour Commissioner might issue a new certificate of registration with that name that they propose to change.
Okay, okay.
So let me just add again.
Oh, yes, yes.
If Labour Commissioner refuse, then the Labour Commissioner might issue the notice and the reason thereof to say why did he or she refuse to register the trade union organization or to amend the constitution of the trade union organization.
Okay, okay. You want to add something, Ms. Shuveni?
Yeah. Yeah, apart from what my colleague has been said, is that all the communications, it is not just coming at the registration, whereby the office has to communicate to the applicant. The office is also communicating to the applicant in writing to ask for clarity, for clarity in certain issues that the office might be of the opinion that it is not within the requirements of the Labour Act. And from there, when the clarity is now obtained, is when the whole process is also going in. But the office need to communicate to the applicant in writing.
Okay, okay. Mr. Najihwa, I would like to then find out if it does come out that the application or the request for amendment has been denied, for lack of the expensive jargon, let me just say it has been denied. Does the involved parties or body, are they given a certain time period in which they can make the necessary corrections, if need be, to that and then resubmit the application, or is it just not entertained any further?
You know, the normal practice, when we give feedback to them, application, Labor Commissioner always gives some advice. It's always in black and white.
Yeah.
So to say, consider, not to say do this, but
Yeah.
just to say if there's something that is in conflicting, because there's a provision, there's what we call a sort of checklist, section 53, 2 and subsection 3 and section 54. So the advice from the commissioner is always within the provisions of those sections that I mentioned earlier on. So
Okay.
there is no to say when there is feedback from Labor Commissioner, that's a cul-de-sac. No, they can attend, study the advice given, then resubmit the application for further consideration by the Labor Commission.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to open up my call lines, and you're welcome to call in to the studio to make your comments and pose your questions. And the number here is 061, that's the area code, and then 400-397. 400-397, that is the number here in the studio, and you can pose your questions or make your comments to have this conversation with our panelists in the studio. We continue with our with our line of questions here for our panelists, and the next one we would like to address towards Mr. Nashiku. Are there any limitations to a constitution of a trade union or an employer organization?
Yeah, I can say that there are limitations in the sense that once one is proposing a constitution of a trade union, the applicant should ensure that that constitution is not in any way in conflict with the fundamental human rights and freedom as enshrined by our Republic Constitution. And they should also ensure that that constitution is not in conflict with any other law, existing law, and is not in any way aimed to hinder the objective of any other law.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything you'd want to add, Ms. Shuven?
It's
It's well placed,
well
but it's
said.
clear.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
well
well
said.
cleared. I think the most important thing is to try and ensure that we don't infringe on the sovereignty of our country through the laws that are set and in place. The next question goes to you, Ms. Shuveni, and we would want to know what are the effects of a registered trade union or employers organization?
A registered trade union or an employer organization is regarded to be a juristic person
Yeah.
by the law.
Okay.
And that means it can be or it is legal liable for anything that went wrong within that organization. To elaborate on that, it necessarily means that if somebody is an employee of a trade union or an organization or employer organization or official of that organization or a trade union, will never be responsible for legal consequences of the union or of an employer organization, rather than the body itself, which is a union or an employer organization, that will be responsible for legal consequences. So that is the effects of the trade unions and employer organizations.
Okay. I think those are the little things that we've never really thought about. Like, if anything does happen, who is liable? Is the individual who runs it, or who? So I think it's good to have platforms like this that we can actually get such clarity. Mr. Njiwa, want to add something to that?
I just want to add to what she said. When to say a person, an employee of a trade union employer organization will not held liable, which means if that specific individual acted within the confinement of the law, that person is not held liable. In case if a person happened to find him or herself on the other side of the law, that one it might have some implication.
Okay. But in the same vein, Mr. Nanjiwa, we would like to stay with you with regards to a similar question, but this then speaks to what are the rights of a registered trade union or employer organization?
Okay, thank you for the question. let me just start with a trade union.
Yeah.
A trade union has the right to bring a case on behalf of the employees to the employer. A trade union has the right to enter the employee premises in terms of Section 65 of the Labor Act. The trade union has the right to recruit the members. A trade union that is recognized as exclusive bargaining agent have the right to negotiate with the employer and enter into a corrective agreement on behalf of the employees that a trade union represent. And a trade union also has the right to bring a dispute on behalf of its member to the Labor Commissioner office for further adjudication. The employer organization has the right to represent its members, which are the employer, whenever there is a dispute or there is a case between employer and the employee. The employer organization also has the right to join or to affiliate with any other registered employer organization. They have also the right to affiliate to an international organization just for the purpose for them to reach their objective.
Okay. As we're rounding off our show here for this afternoon, I've got one last question that I'd like to pose to Mr. Nashiko. When can a trade union or an employee organization be wounded up?
Okay. Thank you for the question. You see, the labor court may order a trade union or employer organization to be wound up only if now a trade union or an employer organization apply to the labor court for its operation to be dissolved, or whether the labor commission, either the labor commissioner or any member of a trade union or employer organization apply to the labor court, and then the labor court is satisfied with the reason given as to why the organization or a trade union should be wound up, and then the labor court can order that. Or in case of insolvency, and then they can apply to get an order from the labor court to be wound up. Only on that scenario.
Okay.
Yes.
With that, we are coming or rounding off our show for this afternoon, but I would like to hear it from our panelists, whether they have any last remarks that they do want to put out there. Mr. Najewa?
Thank you. I would just like to say that it is very important for the workers to have their voice heard. Sometimes it's very difficult for them to stand for themselves due to the reason fact that sometimes there are some intimidation from the side of employer.
Yeah.
But whenever there is a trade union or there is an association that is representing them, at least it will be like one voice. It will not single out somebody to say, this is the one who brought up this query, or this is the one who's reporting. So it's always important to belong to a trade union, and also for employer to have employer organization, because these two bodies, including the state, they always try to find ways on how to solve problems instead of being employee and employer in the organization. Today they are engaging each other. Tomorrow it's the employee facing some criticism or facing some intimidation. Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Shuven?
Yes. For my final remark here, for those who are interested in the labor market to join a trade union, as my colleague has alluded, it's very helpful. But the point that have to be taken into consideration is that by the time that they are organizing themselves to be members of a trade union, they must not infringe with the time of the employer. meaning that the organization of a trade union, when you are organizing yourself to be members, mobilizing for membership, you must take out your time, which is totally independent from that of the employer.
Okay.
And it is very important also for you to join a trade union as a community of workers in order to have expert representative for those people who can assist you in following the procedures when you are approached by any situation in the workplace. So it's your choice. It's a freedom of association provided for by the Constitution and also substituted by the Labor Act.
Okay.
So it's a right.
Yes. I like the fact that you say that it's your right. Mr. Nashiko?
Yes, ma'am. As my colleagues have been indicated, all I can say that it's a very good thing to be a member of a trade union. But once a trade union or employer organization approach you, at least make sure you study their constitution and know what they are going to do or represent you in terms of what. Because we find a person who is a member of a trade union, but he doesn't know why he is a member of a trade union or why he joined. Once you sign for, study the constitution, know what they are going to do for you in terms of representation, yes. And this kind of platform is very nice. Once we are having information, right information with the public, the worker will be easier.
Okay.
Yes.
No, it's good to know that we are playing a role in making sure that we make your job easier as well. So thank you for availing your time for us to be able to participate in this conversation. With that said, I would like to holistically say thank you to our panelists and you, our viewers, for taking your time out to be with us this afternoon. From myself, Shianua Desire Kahiha, along with my production crew here at the GIC, it is bye-bye until we meet again on Wednesday.